Examiners of professional counselors. Today is Friday, February 2nd at 9:05 a.m. And we're meeting in person today at the George H.W. Bush Building in Austin for what I believe is the first time in 4 years. So it's great to see everybody. Let's do introductions. We're going to start down here on the far right.
Good morning, Chair. Janie Stubblefield, licensed professional counselor and board approved supervisor, professional.
Good morning. My name is Vanessa Hall and I'm a public member.
Good morning. My name is Loretta Bradley. I'm a professional member and my home area is Lubbock, Texas.
I'm Jen Winston, public member, new.
Welcome, Jen.
Good morning. Amuna, professional counselor.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chair Stephen Hallbauer. I'm a professional member from Rockwall, Texas. Dr. Christopher Taylor, Vice Chair.
Pastor Roy Smith from Midland, Texas, and I am a public member.
Brenda Compagnone, licensed professional counselor, board recognized supervisor from San Antonio, professional member.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. It's great to see you in person. Christina, we're handed off to you for the staff, please.
Yes, Christina DeLuna, Board Administrator for the LPC Board. We also have Brenda Skiff, the Executive Director Assistant. Sorry, Brenda. Kenneth Long, one of the LPC attorneys. For Victoria Benitez, another board attorney. We have Patrick. Oh my gosh, Patrick Hyde. Sorry, guys. Who is our General Counsel. We have Daryl Spinks, who is the Executive Director, and newly added Robert Romig, who's our Deputy Executive Director. Oh, and Brian Clark is also here for, he will be helping with on the Zoom meeting, he will be helping with the SOA case today.
Thank you, Christina. I will note that we do not have to take note of any excused absences. And since we are all 9 of us here, we definitely have a quorum. I'll hand it off. Do we have any stakeholders that would like to introduce themselves? You can run up there if you want.
I just want to say I'm appreciative of all the work that you do and I think.
Thank you.
So I am Brian Smith. I have a license. For the Texas Association for Counselor Education and Supervision.
Good morning.
I'm Dr. Lori Collins-Mark. I'm a licensed professional pastor.
And I am here representing the Texas Mental Health Counselors Association as I'm their president.
Good morning. Thanks for coming. We're going to go ahead and move on. Item number 3. This involves application reviews or denials. Christina, can we verify that we have none this morning?
Correct, there are none.
Thank you. Actions executed by the board chair. Also, we can verify we have none this morning.
Correct.
Thank you. Item 5, first quarter orders. Christina?
Yes, we had 9 orders that were agreed orders that were already executed by Daryl Spinks, the Executive Director of the Council. So no action is needed by the LPC board today.
Okay, board, any questions about any of those orders? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Item 6, reports review. Christina, please.
Yes, so you all have been provided with all of the reports for this last, for the first 2024 fiscal year quarter. If you had any questions, you can definitely ask those. But those are the pretty, the ones that you see each meeting, as well as I've added the monthly licensing stats in there for your review as well.
Thank you, board. Any questions over the performance measure, enforcement status, or complaint dismissal reports?
No, I think it's exciting that we're growing though.
Yes.
LPCs. It's exciting.
Yep. Okay. Moving forward, item number 7 is a SOA matter, and Attorney Brian Clark will be presenting it. Is he attending in person, or is he gonna?
He's by Zoom.
He's on Zoom. Okay, then we hand it over to Mr. Clark.
All right, we had a complaint in this case that alleged sexual misconduct, sexual exploitation of a client. We convened a suspension panel, and they concluded that the respondent's continued practice constituted a continuing and imminent threat to the public welfare. So they issued an order that temporarily suspended the respondent's license. We then went to SOA, who agreed with the suspension panel, and they continued the suspension until a final hearing could be held. At the final hearing, the respondent didn't show up, so SOA issued a default dismissal and deemed all the facts in the petition admitted. So now we've got a proposed order for your consideration that revokes the respondent's license. It's the order. If the order is approved, it'll be presented at the next BHEC meeting. So when you vote, the members of the suspension panel will need to recuse themselves. And that's all I got. It's up that the respondent, if he is here, he has a chance to make a statement.
Okay. Does not appear that Mr. Duran is out in the audience, but we will do a check over the Zoom link to see if he is in attendance. And if he is, he will have 10 minutes to speak.
Let's see.
Mr. Duran, if you're in the attendee list on the Zoom, if you would raise your hand so that we can find you. Or a representative of Mr. Duran. Anybody raise their hand?
Again, if anyone's there for this case, legal representation or the respondent, please raise your hand in the Zoom function. I do not see anyone.
Okay, moving forward. Board, is there any discussion regarding the case?
Mr. Chair, I must recuse myself.
They have to actually leave the meeting or just can't?
Sit there.
Okay.
I have record that Janie, you were part of the informal settlement conference.
Okay. Board Chair, I must recuse myself.
Okay, thank you. Noted. Board, any discussion regarding the matter itself? Okay, hearing none, I do need a motion to accept the proposed order and refer the matter back to BHEC for final consideration. I need a motion.
So move.
Thank you, Ms. Campanone. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Dr. Muna with the second. We do have a pending motion. Is there any discussion regarding the specific motion itself? Okay, hearing none, we will now vote at this time. All in favor of accepting the proposed order and referring the matter back to BHEC for final resolution, please raise your hand and signify aye.
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 Okay, passes. Thank you, Mr. Clark. We'll move on. Number 8, we have a rulemaking petition. Patrick, can you introduce the petition, please?
This was a petition, and it's similar to one that we received previously, and it was a discussion, or it was a request to reduce the amount of hours to reach supervisor status. This was, again, somebody that was looking to say, I want to reduce 2 hours off of the 5 required if I have a PhD, the years, if I have a PhD. If memory serves, we've seen this sort of petition before, so I already drafted and sent the denial letter, especially since we have to make a ruling within 60 days of receiving it, and
Right.
the 60 days are already blown since the last time we received it. So staff has already sent the denial letters in the packet, but we, of course, will bring the petition to the board in case they want. The board can take a different course of action if it wants to, but based on the last petition that was essentially I don't want to say identical, but very similar. Staff did not think the board was going to change its mind because historically, as the letter points out, there used to be a shorter period of time to become a supervisor, and it was increased several years back to the current 5 years. And I didn't know that the reasoning for changing that would have changed. So, anyways, the letter is in your packet as well as the petition. And I don't know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Patrick.
Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, Dr. Bradley.
One of the things that I think we need to consider, I don't know why it was changed in the first place. Now, I read the material here from NBCC. What information do we have from other states? My best guess is 3 is pretty average. However, I think it goes beyond 3 being average. And my question is, do we have any data that indicates that there's a significant difference in competency between 3 and 5 years? So that's one question. The second question, am I correct that we have a little over 5,000 LPCAs and a little over 6,000 LPCS? So there's about 5,000 plus associates and about 6,000 plus supervisors,
Correct.
which I don't think we can take that to mean absolutely we have enough supervisors to supervise, because some people are an LPCS and choose not to supervise. But what I'm getting at is what type of data would indicate to me to vote for 3 years as opposed to 5. I want to get this right. And I need more information. I teach this doctoral supervision class, and I know of no research that can tell me that I'm a better supervisor at year 4 and year 5 as opposed to year 3. Maybe it's out there, but I'm sure not finding it.
Thank you for that, Dr. Bradley. I can illuminate 2 of those points for you. One, the reason why we changed it
Okay.
back in 2016, was that right? Yeah. This had been sort of the path forward, from my understanding, from the inception of the LPC program. Obviously, when a new program gets stood up, the barriers to entry are a little bit easier. There's grandfathering. We say, hey, you can be a supervisor in 3 years. But we know once we get to capacity, we're going to bump that to 5. I believe that was discussed in the meeting. I don't recall. I've slept since then. Also had 2 children and moved like twice. But I believe that was the discussion that we had. There was, to my recollection, very little pushback on that. And I believe this was to put us in line with a higher level of, credentialing for our supervisors so that we could ensure that they had enough experience. I'm not sure what the other states are doing 100%. I know some of them are 3 years. I know some are 5. I know some have no requirement, you just take the course. Like you, I would love to see some data. I don't know that it exists. So one of you PhD students, instead of petitioning us, go do some research for me, please. But that being said, the fact is that we offer 100% supervision through telehealth means, right? So you can do supervision with anybody in this state. We have more supervisors than we do associates. I don't see it as a value add. And the amount of responsibility that we put on our supervisors in this state might be a little bit more than the other states do. So I just think we're going to continue to hear this because, as you know, Dr. Bradley, PhD students are tenacious. And I love that because I was once one and I feel the same. And I would have done the same.
I think that's great that they're tenacious, though. May I respond?
Yes.
Okay. Then, this happened with us in 2016. We go from 3 to 5. What does our data in-house say?
I don't know that we have data that will directly correlate to say, our complaints that are, directly due to the amount of hours somebody was licensed before they were a supervisor, we can say, well, that's obviously we have a decrease or increase of complaints. Like, I don't know if we necessarily have that data, to be honest with you. So I don't know that I have a good answer for you, because I don't think we have that sort of data in our.
I'm not trying to imply that it's a true cause and effect research design.
Yeah.
But what I'd like to see is just a trend analysis. We had this many in 2016. 5 years later in 2021, we had this many. And then now at the end of 2023, I'd just like to see a trend there. I'd also like to see, and I read what NBCC said, and in due respect to them, I think they have a good study, but I don't think it answers the real question.
Dr. Bradley, I'll tell you, we'll have to, that's going to take a little bit of research on staff's part to do that trend analysis that you're talking about. We'll get on that. I won't be able to give that to you today by the end of the meeting.
Oh, no.
But then also for that analysis to be valid, Daryl, you would have to ask if they had 3 or 5 years of experience
This is true.
when they started supervising.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would just be
Yeah.
just uncollated data.
And I'd be
I don't know how to
interested in
find
knowing
that
if
out.
the rest of the board feels like I do. I don't have the data to make a decision that's this important.
I think
I think Dr. Taylor brings up a good point. I mean, as I sit here, if we did the trend analysis, Dr. Taylor's right. If I showed you complaint stats against supervisors for supervisory issues pre-BHEC, say pre-2016, I'm not going to know whether they had 3 to 5 years. I'm not going to know how much experience they had unless I go back and poll everyone who had an order back then. So I can do that. I can put that information together, but I don't know. I don't know if it will really answer your question is what I'm trying to say.
Would you not be able to look at their original licensing date and then just subtract the difference between that and their upgrade date?
But that doesn't necessarily mean they were actually starting supervising. When we approved them for supervisor status, they could have waited 2 years or 3 years
Yeah,
before they
that's true.
actually started.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I think Janie.
Janie, go ahead.
Chair, I also have a question about any complaints we're having against supervisors. As I'm looking at the report, I don't see a carve out for that. And maybe it's in another report. But I would like to see a carve out that says that they had a supervisor status and then we had a complaint concern and things like that. And to be able to kind of collect the full body of data in terms of, and maybe it's not an issue, but if we don't have information, it's hard to say it's not information. Is it somewhere and I'm just missing it?
No, and that's one of the problems I think we're going to have is, so we merged databases from HHSC and also psychology. And I remember sitting down specifically with Tim and Alfonso, the enforcement manager, and we went through, because the way things were being categorized when they were coming in the data system, there were a really long list of options when at HHSC, and we whittled them down to try to make them more helpful and more accurate. And so currently, I know when we're getting complaints, we're categorizing them as, supervisory issue or, sexual misconduct or records issue, whatever, generally trying to, so that we can look at sort of those trends. But the data that was collected previously isn't the same, like, categorization that we're doing today as it was back in pre-2016. So I don't know how helpful
And we just started the supervisory categorization. We just did that not too long ago. It was something similar to this that kind of brought about that. Kind of somebody asking, there was a need. We saw a need to start tracking complaints involving supervisory issues. So that is a very new categorization. So we're not going to have a lot to give you on that. I can tell you.
But we will have new data moving
Yes, ma'am.
forward.
Yes.
forward.
When did you guys start tracking that?
It was either late last year, late 2023. It had to be late 2023.
The other question I'd ask too is, what problem are we trying to solve exactly? Because I don't know that right now we are seeing a problem. Our field is growing. faster than the other mental health boards. Our educational fields are growing. More programs are getting launched every year. More students are enrolling in school every year to become therapists, far more than we thought was going to happen. We have more supervisors now than we did when it was the 3-year mark. I mean, what barriers are there other than just wait 2 more years? I mean, that's all we're saying. And we're not even creating a new rule to say that. We've been saying that now since 2016.
Right.
That would just be my big question.
Dr. Amuna and Christina attended NBCC just about 3 weeks ago. Can you give us some perspective that you found?
I can say that the issue with regard to supervision is not just one that we're facing in our state. Every state that was there was trying to determine if there are rules or regulations regarding supervision status, requirements, criteria is where they should have it. And no one in the room actually felt like they had it together, if that's some solace. Among the states that were there, I believe it was like close to 30-ish. None of them felt like they had a good grasp on it. A lot of the issues that other states have, we don't. To Dr. Taylor's point, there are a lot of states that do not have enough supervisors, just quantity-wise, and we don't have that issue. So to the point of the problem that there is to be solved, compared to our peers, we're in a pretty good situation. We can always improve, but we're not in a detrimental situation compared to some of our peers in at least 30 other states.
Well said, Dr. Amuna.
That's a big deal.
Board, my understanding of this issue is that it's not that we don't have enough supervisors. It's that we want really good supervisors. Is that correct? Well, right, the supervisors still outnumber the associates, so it's not just a direct numbers issue, but we want really great supervisors. And so my question is, do you become a better supervisor between years 4 and 5? That's my public member question, is that do you become better for 2 more years? And if so, then is just the 5-year the number that we drew, or does it have solid data behind it for why we're going with 5 years? Because if you don't become a better supervisor over those 2 years, then why do we have it at 5 as opposed to 3?
Well, if I could, I feel like over time, just as we mature and we grow and become seasoned supervisors, I feel like it's really beneficial when you do have more time versus just cutting it back. Since we've been on the board for a while, I think we used to see a few complaints on supervisors, but I don't have a trend analysis. I don't know if there was 50 or 60 since I've been on the board, but I haven't quite seen that to be a problem. But me personally, not having any data to back it up, I feel like the 5 years is a good amount. You're just always growing as a supervisor, always, and following policy and procedures. Rules are changing. So that's just me.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd also caution a debate on, is it our role to make the best supervisors possible? I mean, our mandate is minimal standards. I don't want to get into a debate about, does this make the best supervisor out there? Because I think that kind of goes beyond our mandate to set up minimal standards rather than best practice.
So my impression is that we have 5 years as opposed to 3, because you're that additional 2 years of experience translates to a better supervisor, which then creates better associates that are being supervised, which leads to better therapists.
Right. I think we have very few ways to measure a licensee's process, their progress over time. So we don't really, like at 3 years, we don't know, how many hours of therapy they've done, how much additional education they've done. I mean, you could make the argument that if I did all of this work in 2 or 3 years, that I have all this knowledge, I've gained all this experience because I've done 10 times more work than somebody else who maybe entered the field and then just kind of didn't practice for like a year or 2 years, so we just don't have that. And I don't think there's a mechanism for us to even get that kind of information. I think that would just break the state government, really, if we tried to do that. So this is one of our few. We have two tools, which is the educational program that they have to go through, which the doctoral students already get that, right? They get that as a part of their program. If you're not going there, then you take the 40-hour class, and then we have time and complaints. So I guess we have three. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Moon?
Would we be comfortable just having our team do an analysis for our own knowledge, what each state does? Like, what's the requirement for each state for supervisor? If they have none, then that can just be listed as none. And just look at the raw quantitative data, like out of 50 states, 42 require 5. And then we just kind of go off of that in the absence of actual research. Would board members be comfortable with just looking at that, not changing rules, but just at least looking at that as a baseline to begin a more informed conversation?
I think.
Go ahead.
I think that might be a good way to begin. When I chaired the HIPSO board, which is several years ago, Colorado, I'm 99% sure, did an analysis of what was happening that caused their supervisors to get into trouble. And I know from that analysis that they determined that the supervisors who had a discrete ethics course that offered credit, those supervisors had less violations than those that didn't have the course. And I don't know, I never lived in Colorado, but I remember that study. And can we look at something similar or in a parallel fashion, which is what Chair was saying? And that is there any data, not complicated data, but any data that would give us more information to say, yes, this data indicates that those who have 5 years of experience have less violations than those in the other category? I mean, I think you could just do, I mean, it doesn't have to be a very difficult statistical analysis. I mean, I think you can take that data. Now, I'm not trying to give more work to the staff, and that's why I'm looking at Mr. Sphinx here. But I'm going to abstain unless I have some more information, because I don't know which way to go at this point. I want to go in a direction that the supervisor is the best that they can be.
Christina, I think there are counterparts at AASCB that we can ask about this, or
Absolutely.
The hangout sessions that we've done.
Yeah.
Can you reach out to a counterpart to see? We're looking for information about a state that used to have a certain time frame, and then they lowered it, and what has been the result of that. We're just kind of curious about it. Let's get the data that we can get. I mean, Daryl, you and Patrick have kind of explained our limitations here, but let's see what we do have. Pre-2016, post-2016, we're not making any huge decisions today, but this is something to look at, and maybe we just kind of keep an eye on during this year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to, I agree with you, and thank you for directing us to reach an outside agency. I would like to caution us, this body, from putting too much demand on our staff to get data that's not going to be entirely sound, that is trying to solve a problem that we don't have. Because this right now is just, it's not a problem. There's not a problem here.
Sure. My other pondering, I suppose, is this particular issue, especially in looking at other states, is not about us aligning with other states, because if it, Lord willing, we get to participate in the counseling compact at some point in time, the supervision piece is not at issue, correct? Am I correct? It's the standard
Right.
license that we need to align with other states to participate in. Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that the supervision issue isn't keeping us from participating in something that
Right.
other states are participating in. Okay, so this is an issue that's only inside house.
Yeah. Also, as we look at other states too, we have to remember we have the largest mental health workforce in the country. And so that's a lot different when we look at a state like Connecticut or Nevada. They do not have the same issues that we have or the same problems that we have necessarily. So as we compare to what they're doing, just keep in mind that we have a much larger beast to manage.
Yeah, I'll share that we, in addition to having the largest body of mental health professionals, there are states that are semi to comparable in size that only have 2,000 to 3,000 clinicians. And that's total, that's not just LPC. And so we have to be careful that we're comparing, kind of like Dr. Taylor mentioned, apples to apples and not apples to oranges. And so their rules may be lax because they're trying to get people in the door where we're much more established. And so, again, in the absence of the data of concrete, kind of like Christina said, someone could have been in LPCS for 5 years and never supervised at all. And so I'm okay with abstaining from any concrete decisions right now.
I know the data that we do have. We know our growth rate percentage for new LPC associates annually. Do we know the growth rate percentage for new supervisors annually? Because if associates is
we could-
outpacing the number of new supervisors, they eventually will catch up.
We could find that out. I don't know that now, but we can find that out.
Right. Because right now,
Tim's listening, so he's on it.
right now supervisors outnumber associates 6,000 to 5,000. But if that gap is shrinking, then it's something that we need to be aware of, because based on our growth percentage projections, we'll be able to figure out at what point those two numbers line up.
Yeah. One thing that I haven't mentioned, there is one source of data that's going to be coming to you pretty quickly as soon as the council meets, and that's our customer service survey. We actually ask specific questions about, do you supervise? If not, why not? And people there's a lot of candid responses on there, and the LPCs have a very good response rate on that customer service survey. So you're going to have some direct data. Unfortunately, it's not easily counted or quantified. It's open text, but you can read through that and see very quickly about why people are supervising and why they're not supervising.
If it pleases the chair, I'd like to call a motion.
I'm not clear that we actually have to vote on anything. The letter has already been sent, correct? We just need to approve the letter that has already been sent.
You don't have to approve it unless you want to take different action. You can take different action, or you can just move on from it. But I've already done it. I've already sent the letter out. So unless you're not happy with it, we can do something different.
Okay. Dr. Taylor, your motion with that explanation in mind?
I withdraw my motion.
Okay. I get the sense that we do have a bigger picture issue here, that perhaps this issue should be as a whole and for ongoing consideration be referred to professional development, correct? If there is an interest at continuing to look at it, because it's my understanding that we do have a couple different places where we would like to at least see additional data. So at this time, can we refer this to professional development for further consideration? Go ahead.
Oh, one of the things I would suggest, there are 3 states when you get the data that might be worth looking at: Ohio, Illinois, and Florida. I'm not saying theirs is parallel to ours, because Ohio has a 2-tier licensure, but I'm saying that these are states that might have the numbers and might have kept the data over the years that we're looking for.
Okay.
May I?
Go ahead, Pastor Smith.
I would like for us to make sure that as we're compiling data, just from a public idiot's perspective, that we not create a problem that we don't have for us, that we do look at it, have it, know what's there, but don't make somebody else's problem ours.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Okay. So Patrick, if we do not have to take a vote on the denial, then we'll just go ahead and move forward.
Okay.
Okay. Before I do that, does anybody want to change the response that was sent to Mr. Freeney? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move forward. Item number 9, Ms. Stubblefield represents all of BHEC on the Children's Mental Health Strategic Plan Subcommittee, and I know that committee has been pretty busy. So Janie, if you don't mind, will you let us know where things stand?
Chair Halvar. Yes, the Children's Mental Health Strategic Plan Subcommittee is a very robust committee, and it has to do with the fact that we have a very short window of time to gather a lot of data to report back to the governor by this fall. The committee has made a lot of progress, and the report, I believe, is in the material, in completing, especially the key things are those guiding principles of what's going to be reported in that report to the governor. Still collecting a lot of data. Started about 2 weeks ago through about the next 5 or 6 weeks. We have meetings sometimes 2 and 3 times a week that we're hearing from a lot of the mental health agencies and hospitals and all the interested parties that are providing mental health in our state to see who's doing what. What I've heard in I think I've attended 2 of those in the last 2 weeks, is that all the agencies are reporting that they need licensed professionals, specifically with training to serve children and youth. This committee is, focused on children's mental health. And so that's where they're coming with that data. Lots of workforce issues, the mental health authorities, the children's advocacy centers, juvenile justice, schools, ECIs, all of those. And so while we may have the largest workforce in our country, we need to make sure that there's a number of that workforce who are trained to serve children and youth. And that's been the number one thing coming from those meetings to date, is that we need qualified mental health professionals to serve that younger population. There's more to come, and so I'll keep the committee up to date.
Janie, I have a very public member type of question, and that is, what are you hoping comes out of this? What are you, for you personally, what are you hoping is a result of this committee and what y'all are working on?
So the big thing we're looking for is, where are the gaps? What is covered right now and what is not covered? And so that's what we're really looking for, is what gaps exist. And of those things that are covered right now, the gap is workforce issues. And so we're still looking for gaps that are not covered.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Chair. The timing of this is kind of fortuitous because Mr. Romig and I were on a phone call yesterday with another agency that has been tasked with conducting basically a workforce study. Are y'all, in your workforce data, are you breaking it down by the professions, counseling, social work, psychology?
I can't, I will take that question back and look at that. I don't know that the answer to that off the top of my head. I will tell you, I did share the BHEC workforce study with the committee so that they can see the data that has been collected over the last year from BHEC in terms of the mental health profession. So that, and the other thing is, so far, the agencies that we've been hearing from are, nonprofit agencies and hospitals and things like that. And so I pointed out, we also need to consider that there's a whole private practice area that covers a large part of mental health services to our state as well, which the survey, your workforce survey, clearly indicates the number of individuals who are in private practice and not working in agency settings.
Okay.
Sir.
Questions for Janie?
Do you feel good about where things are headed?
right now we're collecting data, and so it feels good to have information coming in. There's a lot of very, very smart individuals who are leading this, this subcommittee, and I'm honored, very honored to serve alongside them, representing our organization, so.
Well, we appreciate it. I would say that you're doing the majority of the heavy lifting here, but frankly, you're doing all the heavy lifting here. Do you need, is there any way that we can be supporting you, helping you out?
I feel very comfortable with what I don't feel like I'm doing heavy lifting. I feel like I'm in audience, in the audience of what's being done there. But certainly sharing what I can from the BHEC perspective, like the workforce study.
Okay.
I'm very happy to have had that kind of in my back pocket to offer to that committee. So.
You need a ream of paper, a blue pen, anything like that?
Thank you, Janie, for
Yeah.
doing that.
Any questions for Janie? And board, remember, Janie is the representative for BHEC. It's not just the LPC board. So she's representing counselors, but she's also representing all the mental health professions. So thank you.
It's my honor.
Any questions? Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on. Item number 10 is rulemaking. Today we have any discussion, and we do need to take a vote regarding 681.72. This was the removal of the 5-year deadline. Any update on, Patrick, was anything changed on that, or?
No, we received 2 comments that were both in favor
Yep.
of making this change. And also in line with this sort of change, social work was the only other board that had a year shelf life for their exam, and they previously met and have voted and sent up to the council a proposal to get rid of theirs as well. So this would be the last one for any of the boards.
During the pendency of consideration of this rule, I have not seen a lot of objection. Public comment also just, we had 2 written comments and they were both in favor of it, but has anything changed anybody's mind? We're getting kind of close to the finish line here, but there's a reason that we have multiple layers of review. And has anything changed on your perspective on this? Nope, hearing none. We do need a motion to accept.
I so move.
And return to BHEC for final adoption. Dr. Taylor made the motion and Dr. Bradley with the second. We do have a pending motion. Any discussion on the motion itself? Hearing none, we will go ahead and take a vote at this time. Please raise your right hand and signal aye. We are voting whether to approve the rule change and return it to BHEC in 3 weeks for final adoption. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Hey.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thanks, everybody. Christina, number 11 is application and supervision issues.
Yes, so for this quarter, the only committee that was the Application and Supervision Issues Committee. During this quarter, they saw 3 cases. One was related to supervised experience and supervisor reservations. One was related to degree qualifications, and the third was course evaluation. I really appreciate their time and effort on doing that. We do still have some in the works, so I will have a report at the next meeting for the future ones that are on the that they're looking at right now and will soon be looking at as well. So thank you again for looking at all that material.
Christina, and then committee members as well, if you know this, is Mr. John Philip Lewis. Do you have an update? Do you have an application from him?
I don't know
Okay,
offhand.
that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions for Christina or any issues that you would like to see added on for discussion on any of the committees? I will issue the, I'm surprised that it's already 10 till 10 and we haven't brought this up, but we do have our 4-year rules review. So the rules committee will be going deep down into the bunker, getting out the rule book and dusting it off. And that's going to be an interesting process. for board, we'll start with you guys. Anything that you want looked at, rules wise, please bring it to our attention because everything is on the table. And we will be holding town hall meetings to get public input on proposed rule changes. So if we happen to have done something that is horribly unpopular over the past few years and you'd like that undone, we want to hear about it. If we have not done something that you would really like see done, you'll have the opportunity to let us know. We will be doing town hall style outreach sessions to hear from our mental health professionals about rule changes that they'd like to see. Daryl, we've kind of talked about a time frame, but I think this is going to be a maybe later in the spring and summer. We'll be holding these sessions, and then end of summer, early fall. That's really when we're going to like get out the rule book and go through everything, the fine tooth comb.
That sounds about right. I will tell y'all that one of the things that I have hired Mr. Romig to do is to handle the quadrennial rule review. So he is going to be ramrodding that for us. You're going to have to deal with him.
Say that again, Daryl. Quadrennial? Quadrennial, that's what we're calling it?
Yes, sir.
That's what you've decided?
That's the official name.
All right, done
I
deal.
just named it right here.
Quadrennial.
Quadrennial.
We'll just call it the quadrennial.
I like that too.
There it is.
Sounds like a movie, but
The way I've explained this is that, like, okay, everybody plays Monopoly, the board game, with your family, okay? And you have family rules. And then you just kind of get used to the family rules. You don't question it. But then you go play Monopoly with somebody else, and then all of a sudden you realize they don't follow your rules. And like you're not supposed to get any money for landing on free parking, for example. And so what you do, you get out the rule book and see what it actually says. And then you do then you realize the way that you've always done it, it was actually not in the rules. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We're picking up the rule book, taking a look to see, first of all, are we doing everything the way we're supposed to be? Is there anything that should be changed? Is there anything that we would like to be added? And that's what we're doing here. It just, Monopoly sounds a lot more fun than what we're really going to do.
it is.
All right. So for public, anybody watching this, watch your emails for announcements regarding these town hall sessions. Okay. Moving on, item number 12 is our board chair report, and we'll get back to number 1 real quick. Let's go with BHEC matters. BHEC met on October 21st. The first item of interest is that the addition of PhD credentials, which we kind of took a look at over really the duration of 2023, is up for adoption at our next BHEC meeting, and then will be effective in mid-March. So then people can start applying for these new licenses at that time. As we already voted on, we did approve the rule change 68172. And then this is kind of a big one. Patrick, can you give a little bit of explanation on the change to TAC 882.23? We are just making a clarification on the location of the client as establishing jurisdiction for licensure.
Sure, it's not adopted yet, but it is coming to the council's meeting later this month for possible adoption. And what it does is it clarifies that where the practice of professional counseling, psychology, social work, what have you, is being conducted is based upon where the client is located. And so the law wasn't specific. And so the general interpretation was you have two parties. If either one of those two parties, whether the provider or client is in Texas, that could be the conduct of a regulated practice. And so, you know, we've had instances where a hurricane hits Louisiana, a bunch of social workers come over to Texas to escape it, but then there's still clients in Louisiana that they want to provide services to. Well, they don't have a Texas license. And so our interpretation would require them to get licensed where they're here temporarily. They're not, necessarily going to go through the full licensure process. And so, and then you also have other instances where if you require people to then get licensed in both jurisdictions and comply with those two jurisdictions requirements, they sometimes have conflicting standards where, in California, there's a duty to warn. In Texas, there is not at all. And so if you have people having to comply with both of those standards, they're in an impossible situation. So part of the discussion and the solution was, and this is also modeled off after what SIPAC does, is they look at where's the person receiving the services, and that's where where those services are delivered is where the conduct is being done. And so if somebody happens to be here, but the client is in another state, they're not prohibited from doing that. They just may be subject to the regulation of that other state where the client is.
Patrick, can I have a clarification on that? I'm hearing you say that this rule is going to say that if the client is geographically located in Texas, that determines the location of the service.
That means that they are conducting the regulated practice here in Texas,
Okay.
if the client is located in Texas.
And I want clarification because the example you gave is if somebody was licensed in Louisiana and they fled to Texas, but their client's still in Louisiana.
Once this rule would be changed, they would be permitted to do that. Under the current rules, they were not necessarily, they would have to be licensed here in Texas.
Okay. Thank you. That was the clarification.
Patrick, I'm just kind of curious, like long-term, I mean, with the lawsuits that have begun all throughout the country, I mean, West Virginia, looking at the way Amazon determines tax. There was that really rare, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, that like neurosurgeon who was suing one of the boards because he said that he got in trouble because he was giving advice to a patient that came to see him and then went back to a different state. So he's like, I'm just not doing it anymore. Where do you see this kind of going long term as we think about states' rights versus the growing impact of the internet?
I think this provides clarity. It's something we get questions on all the time. But I think the state of Texas has every right to regulate the conduct that occurs in its state.
Yeah.
So even if somebody's on vacation here in Texas, we get that all the time. I'm just here for vacation for a couple of weeks. Can't I just, get services from somebody not licensed here? No, you're here in Texas. We can regulate within the border of Texas. So that's where you start we also get questions. Well, I have a license. They just happen to be driving through another state. We can't tell another state, we can't regulate what's going on in that other state. So, long-term, I think this provides some clarity. I think there are I can't tell you what every single state does, but I know it is varied, the way that they will view things. But I think this provides better specificity, better clarity in the law. And, it's modeled after other ways that other things are currently operating, like SIPAC. So I don't know. It's hard to see all the pitfalls without, you don't know what you don't know. So, but I hope that answers your question.
I'm just kind of curious, like 20 years from now, what is all this going to look like when we all live inside of Facebook? When we're all walking around with our goggles on, like what is it? Like,
Well,
what
you
does
have
this
to
look
regulate
like?
the metaverse. I guess.
How do we regulate the metaverse? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't know that we're there yet,
All
but
right, rules review, the quadrennial metaverse. We're coming.
You're pointing at Robert, right?
Yeah.
Sure, that side of the table.
So for the board and for those watching, this is getting pretty close to the finish line. It's up for adoption at our next BHEC meeting on the 20th. And so if you have anything to add to this discussion, you need to do so pretty quickly because it's up for adoption in 2 weeks. Okay. Dr. Amuna and Christina represented us at the AASCB conference. We kind of touched on that did y'all have anything that you wanted the board to know about how that went? What are popular discussion topics that are being tackled? First of all, thanks for going, but what is there anything that you want the board to be aware of?
The only thing I can add for the world of the agency and the profession, AI is out there. Not everybody quite knows how it's going to work, and it seems like it changes all the time. So that's just something that people need to keep in mind if they're using programs that when you're providing counseling and you're using an AI program, just make sure you're learning as much and very informed on what all that background is. I don't know enough about it. People at the conference that were speaking on it still don't know all the ins and outs. So it's something that's, coming to this world that is going to be changing. And so it's just something that we all need to really pay attention to and make sure we kind of keep an eye out for. But otherwise, as Dr. Amuna said before, supervision is something that everyone is talking about. And like she said, nobody knows what the right answer is and the best way of handling that. But we're not alone in everything that we're going through, that we're seeing. So it kind of makes you feel good, but at the same time, it's, we're all doing in it together, I guess. But I don't know, is there anything else you wanted to add?
I'll just co-sign on the AI concept, specifically for counselors as it relates to Chat GPT-ish for your treatment plans and for your notes. Some of the conversations that we've had is where clinicians in some other states, no one in our state, would go in and use AI to formulate a note for one client, and they don't look through it thoroughly, and they use that similar same note for another client. And there may be some transferable private information that now goes to another client's note, and that record is pulled. So understanding that AI can be a great tool, but it can also be a great detriment with regard to treatment planning and notes, because it does have that capability. So just being very mindful to use AI as a supplement to the things that we've learned in our programs and not as a replacement. So that was one of the biggest things that came out for me. But I also got that we're in a really, again, I say that people who were there were like, okay, Texas, here you go again. Because we were really in a good position as a state. Not that our peers are not, much respect, shout out to Oregon. We're in a really good position. The way that we manage and we run and we take input from our stakeholders, we're really doing well compared to the verbiage from some of our peers. So I agree.
Great. Speaking of stakeholders, one thing that I'm kind of proud of that I see the board doing is we're really getting out there and engaging with our stakeholder organizations. This past October, Daryl and Christina joined me up in my neck of the woods, Richardson, at the Association for Mental Health Professionals Conference. A few weeks after that, Dr. Taylor, Dr. Bradley, and Vanessa joined Christina on our board panel presentation at TCA. Like I mentioned, Christina and Dr. Amuna were at AASCB, and I recently spoke at the Christian Counselors of Texas Dallas chapter meeting a few weeks ago, and Janie was there to make sure I didn't say anything incorrect. So ever since I've
used,
I guess they got CE credit for me speaking, but that kind of cracks me up. I hope it was beneficial. So that's a long way of saying, really, since I know that I've joined the board, this is about the best level of stakeholder involvement and participation that I've seen from our board. I know it's been a priority of Christina's, and she's done an excellent job of keeping track of conferences and who is interested in participating. And we talk often about, well, who's going to be there? Are they going regardless? Well, they're going to be there. Let's have them speak. And a couple of those are coming up here. TCA's professional school conference is just in a couple days. I don't think that any of us are speaking at that, but I'm not. Are we? There'll be some. Oh, okay, great.
Yes.
Oh well. No, I'm talking about the school counselor conference.
School counselor.
Yeah, that
Okay,
one's.
gotcha. Sorry.
But like Christina mentioned, TASIS is coming up. Dr. Bradley, Dr. Taylor, Ms. Stubblefield are all joining a panel presentation at that. And then Tomka later on in April, Dr. Bradley and Brenda, you're going to be part of that one as well, right? Also, Janie will be going to that one as well. So this is fantastic. We like seeing our board members get out, engage with our Texas professionals. I just, for me personally, after I spoke at Christian Counselors, they came up to me and they said, well, it's good to personalize a board member, to realize, because I talked a lot about my background and my journey, as the kids say. But there is a lot of value in getting out there and showing that we are regular people and that our hearts are all in the right place. We are looking to do good things. This board, I guess, has a historical reputation as just being this executioner, and I hate that. We have our responsibilities. Part of it is the bad stuff at times, but a lot of it is good stuff. We all care about Texas therapists. We all care about the people of Texas. So keep that up. That's going pretty well. And we'll circle back to item number 1, and that's that we had some reappointments and some new appointments. Congratulations, Janie Stubblefield, reappointed. Congratulations, Pastor Smith, reappointed. And join me in welcoming Ms. Winston. You tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in this board, and we need to be figuring out how to get you more involved. So you can start going to these panel presentations. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm from Lufkin. I served on Stephen F. Austin State University's Board of Regents, and we voted ourselves out of a job. So no chance to serve the state. And I'm in a master's program right now in clinical psych. And I thought this gave me a few board options, and I thought, oh, bite, this one sounds interesting. So I'm happy to be here, hoping to learn a lot from you guys.
Well, we appreciate your willingness to serve. I think people sometimes question the public members, like, why are you doing this? You don't get paid. And no, this is service. You're going to, at least right now, you're a public member. For Pastor Roy, for Vanessa and myself, as public members, we're not here to just kind of rubber stamp everything. We're outvoted. We have 5 professional members that they can do, frankly, whatever they wanted if they chose to do so. We're always outvoted 5-4. That doesn't happen very often, but for me personally, I don't apologize for being a public member. We're a group of 9, and we have a very important responsibility. And essentially, it all comes down to, for public members, is we have to look at something and say, okay, I don't know as much about this issue as you do, but this kind of sticks out. And is this right? It's our job to question their work. And we are being good public members when we say, hang on, let's pause, explain this, and explain this to me like I'm 5 or something like that. That's when we're really doing our best work as public members. So I encourage you to do that. Be willing to say, all right, gang, hold on. I have more questions about this. That's when we are really bringing a lot of value to the board. Because as I like to say, the professional members represent 30,000 LPCs, but the public members represent 30 million regular old Texans. So they have us outvoted on the board, but we've got them terribly outvoted just as a general population issue. So it's a long way of saying welcome. It's great to have you. So that wraps up my chair report. Christina, the board administrator report, please.
Yes, good morning. So first, thank you, board members. Lots of material again this time, so I appreciate your willingness and answering all of my emails and all of that fun stuff. So thank you for that. But I did want to give a couple reminders related to our resources on our website. Lots and lots of material there. So please definitely check the website out. License verifications is to check the status of your application. Please use that online resource as well. If you can avoid a phone call to staff, that allows them more time to process applications and continue with that. So please look on the website first and see if you can find the answers there. If you do call and need to leave a message for staff, please leave your email address. It is an easier way to for us to sometimes get a response to you. And it's also beneficial because you have something in writing from us rather than just a phone call. So please make sure and leave email addresses as you can. Before you submit applications for any type of application, be sure you have all the required documents. If you are missing anything, it's going to delay the process on the application, on the license being issued. So please double check that, make sure you have everything before you submit that application. If you do have to piecemeal stuff in, it'll just delay it. So double check your documents. Another big one is we wanted to just remind LPC supervisors, please sign off on the associate's hours within the 30 days of completing that supervised experience. If you're the last supervisor and they're finishing those hours, you're still required to submit those hours within 30 days of finishing the overall hours. So just a big reminder on that, as well as supervisors should only be signing off on hours that you completed with that associate. Supervisors should not be signing off on hours that were completed between a different supervisor and an associate, and that's associate. So a big reminder on that. If for some reason the supervisor passed or is incapacitated, there are steps that we have, but you need to contact our office to get that information. So we do have that. And then just renewals, again, they're open 60 days prior to expiration. You'll get a card in the mail, a courtesy renewal card in the mail if you are, just as a reminder, but if you are selected for audit, you will get a letter in the mail where you will submit those CEs, attach the CEs on that online renewal application. We do not need the CEs if you are not selected for audit. Currently processing times all across the board, new license, out of state, upgrades, and supervisor status. Staff are working on January 5th. And for the enforcement report, we have 22 cases that are being monitored right now. All 22 cases are in compliance at this time. So again, I just want to thank the board members for all they do and, all the traveling and emails and all that fun stuff I sent you guys bothering you and all that. But it was a great way to get you all here. So thank you.
Questions for Christina?
No, just a big thank you for all your hard work, Christina. And I guess Daryl and Patrick. Good work too.
I don't do anything.
Echoing what Dr. Taylor said, Christina, no meeting in person was just sort of a workload increase for you. But this has been great. We're all 9 here, and the technology worked. So really thumbs up on all of your proactive efforts on that.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you to our IT as well. So gives me a peace of mind that everything's going to work. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Hey, Christina, where are we with the fingerprinting drama? Are we almost done with that?
Yes, I believe so.
We're done.
We're done.
Yes, sir.
So there's no more fingerprinting for renewals.
No,
Thank God.
exactly.
So many emails. So many.
Yep.
So much hate.
I can't tell you like how many, even my own employees, which just like cracked me up. I was like, seriously, how? How? One of them went to the wrong place.
Oh my goodness.
Just went to the wrong place. One of them just found some guy online to come to his house and do it. And I was like, no, what are you doing? No.
Yes, sign up for email updates and pass the word so that everyone stays informed. So everyone, please pass the word.
Do we want to take a break prior to public comment? I can keep going, but we can.
Break is.
Okay, we are going to take a 5-minute break and then come back. We will have public comment. We will start off with those attending in person and then move to those watching over Zoom. So 5-minute break at 10:15. We will We are back at 10:25 a.m. and we're going to begin item number 14, public comment. So we'll begin with our audience that are here in person. So I think we're going to that mic right in front of you, I think. Yeah. Keep in mind, you have 3 minutes for public comment. After we get to everybody that's here, we will go to those who are would like to comment over the Zoom. So go ahead, Angela.
My name is Angela Bowles. I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor and the Texas Counseling Association liaison to the board. Thank you all for making time and out of your schedules, utilizing whatever resources necessary to make it possible for us all to meet in person today. We haven't been able to do this since before COVID. And the field of professional counseling is obviously a very relational field. So the opportunity to be able to share space with you all today is quite meaningful for each of us. So I hope that we would be able to do this more in the future, but I understand if, we have moved to a point that the way things are, the way things are. But I just wanted to make sure that, you knew how much this really means to all of us to be able to meet with you face to face today. In a few moments, you'll be hearing from some of our divisions about upcoming conferences and opportunities to meet with you all and to integrate with stakeholders. And I just wanted to say thank you because we recognize that you are volunteers and this is very meaningful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have notes. So. Good morning, Chair Hallbauer, board members and staff. My name is Dr. Diane Smedley, and I know we introduced ourselves earlier. I'm an LPC and an LMFT, and I represent TASIS as their liaison to the board. So I want to echo my counterpart, Angela, that I am just incredibly grateful that we're here together. I appreciate Chair Hallbauer, your encouragement to get us to all be here together and to meet in person, because this does help foster a sense of connection, and that connection does benefit the citizens of Texas. Additionally, because I had to add more, because I want to talk about the supervision thing. So there was a study done in 2019 that looked at supervision requirements across the 53 jurisdictions in the state of, not in Texas, in the United States. And if you go read that article, you will see that the average time is 3 years. And you will see that states such as Georgia allow for the PhDs to have less years of clinical experience. With that said, I bring that up because I want you to understand the nuance of that. Those states, such as Georgia, do not place the same burden on supervisors that we do here in the state of Texas. And so I just want to reinforce that those 5 years allow the LPC to have more exposure to more experiences before they start training other LPCs to be LPC associates. And as we continue to push licensure to try to get as many LPCs out there in order to protect or to help our citizens, we cannot reduce the quality of supervision. We cannot reduce the quality of experience of our supervisors. So I just want to echo that we just can't compare ourselves to other states, and that 5 years is important. That was my addition. So furthermore, On behalf of TASIS, I am so excited to welcome y'all to the TASIS Midwinter Conference that's occurring at the end of February. Um, uh, It'll be in Georgetown. We appreciate the board and staff who will be able to attend. Our attendees always appreciate the time, the face time that they get with you all. Our conference offers 12 hours of CEs, so we're super excited about that. We have a huge selection. There's over 60 content sessions. Our attendees will be able to take care of things such as supervision requirements, ethics requirements, so on and so forth. So it's going to be a great time. I look forward to seeing you all there. And then in closing, just thank you for the opportunity today to make public comment and for your continued dedication to the citizens of Texas.
Thank you, Dr. Smedley. Christina, can you get the study from her, please?
Yes, I will. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Just real fast. Am I correct? The study by Richard Hendrickson you're quoting was in the Journal of Counseling Development, I
Yeah,
think.
I've pulled it up on my phone while you were talking so I could remember some pieces of it. I can email it over to you.
That'd be great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Diane.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have notes. I've been used to doing this on Zoom, so.
No problem.
All right. Well, good morning, Chair and board members. I am Dr. Lori Hollingsworth. I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor and a counselor educator. I currently serve as the president of the Texas Mental Health Counselors Association, which is a division of the Texas Counseling Association, and we are also a state chapter of the American Mental Health Counselors Association. The Texas Mental Health Counselors Association is a vibrant counseling association comprised of licensed professional counselors here in Texas, LP licensed professional counselors associates, and graduate students. Our members, is it fading out?
No, you're good.
Okay. Our members are working in private and group practices, community health settings and agencies, outpatient and inpatient hospital settings, and on the campuses of schools and post-secondary education campuses. Our mission is to promote the practice of quality mental health, psychotherapy, and counseling services, and enhance education for mental health counselors. I would like to highlight two ways that the Texas Mental Health Counselors Association, TMCA, is working to provide this education. First, we have quarterly webinars, and two that are coming up. One is in February and one is in April. The one in February is about the ethics of record keeping, and then the one in April is using nature as a therapeutic partner in counseling. Most of all, we are pleased to announce that our spring conference, our 2024 spring conference, will be in Fredericksburg, Texas. It's a one-day conference where our members and other mental health professional or mental health providers can come to get their 6 CEs at this one-day conference. And we have ethics and supervision covered by one of the co-presenters is Dr. Loretta Bradley, and we're very grateful to have a board member, an LPC board member coming to our conference. And we invite all other board members to attend. Additionally, we are going hybrid. It will be in person and virtual. So if you cannot make it in person, please join us virtually. And we've got diversity covered, and it will focus on the unique population of the invisible disability of those living with chronic pain. And then our general CEs include Project Empathy of addiction, neuroscience, and science-based treatment solutions. And then for those in private practice, business, taxes, and other legal, ethical, and legal considerations. And I do appreciate the board's time today and your commitment to serving the citizens in this great state of Texas, and most of all for your countless hours that you put into this board, because I know it takes a lot of time. So thank you so much. And I have to say, It is very nice being here in person. There is a wonderful vibe. Y'all have a vibe going on in this room. So good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last one?
Anyone else?
Okay. Thank you all. Christina, let's go to the comments from the Zoom.
Anyone who is on the on Zoom, if you are interested in providing public comment, please raise your hand in the Zoom function. You will have 3 minutes to speak. And again, we will not be able to discuss specific cases. If you are calling related to a case, please email us. First person we have is Kathleen. It says Kathleen iPad.
That's fine.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Go ahead.
okay. I'm Kathleen Mills, licensed professional counselor supervisor and co-founder of the Association for Mental Health Professionals.org. There has been activity at the legislative and attorney general's office levels in the last 6 months on transgender issue. At AMP, we stand firmly against the entire gender affirming care or GAC movement, and we believe the immense harm being done to our children will mark our generation of parents, counselors, and medical professionals as one of the most egregiously delinquent in modern history, if not longer. On February 18th, 2022, the Texas Office of Attorney General, the OAG, issued a legal opinion classifying certain gender-affirming care services as child abuse based on the Texas Family Code 261. The OAG qualified such treatment as child abuse on the basis it causes mental or emotional injury to a child. That would appear to bring this issue into the sphere of mental health care under the auspices of do no harm. In the light of the passage of Texas Senate Bill 14 last year, which went into effect September 1st last year, and outlaws gender affirming care for under 18 demographic, I think it's time that the 4 boards hold some public discussions about transgender issues, specifically the part that licensed mental health professionals are ethically and legally allowed to play. Glaringly absent from SB 14 is a specific mention of mental health licensees in the affirming care process. We are fully aware that these matters are being litigated as we speak in the higher courts. Nevertheless, there are questions that need to be considered now. My questions for BHEC attorneys and this board are the following. Number 1, pertaining to SB 14, do the generic terms physicians or medical professional include the licensees of the 4 BHEC boards? Number 2, is the omission of the mental health practitioners from SB 14 a purposeful omission or something the legislator needs to revisit and add to the list of covered entities? And number 3, was SB 14 intended to cover the entire GAC process or just the portion that begins with the medication or the scalpel? Does it cover the writing of treatment letters by counselors? Number 4, does the OAG's legal opinion classify certain gender affirming care services as child abuse apply to the 4 boards under BHEC's authority or not? I'm going to defer my remaining statement, which will be completed by Philip Crum. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Next person I have is Patty.
Hello, my name is Patty Drew. I am a first semester student in the professional counseling program at Texas State University. In the clinical mental health counseling track, I look forward to someday being fully licensed as an LPC and maybe even a supervisor someday. I also serve on the board for the Sims Foundation. It's an organization in Austin, Texas that provides mental health and substance use recovery services to the music community. That includes musicians, music industry professionals, and their dependent family members. And I have happily served on the board since 2020, and prior to that, was a client for a long time, as I'm also a member of the music community. So This is my first attendance to a board meeting here with the Texas State Board of Examiners. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having these meetings open to the public. It was very interesting, and I look forward to attending more and learning more about this this agency, how you guys operate, and maybe someday I can be involved as well. So just wanted to say hello and thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Next person we have is Cody Taylor.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. Hello, board. I appreciate y'all having this. I think one of the best things that you could possibly have are the town hall meetings that y'all are discussing. Massive advertisement might be one of those things, or at least on radio in Southeast Texas, primarily in the Beaumont area. However, I want to touch on a couple of things. These are not in the greatest of light. Under complaint number and resolve under 1061-20-0107, Ms. Buckner. I'm specifically speaking to that because it actually was a licensed professional counselor that withheld records from a parent. This seems to be going on all across the state of Texas in family courts. These licensed professional counselors or even other mental health professionals are drumming up a reason to keep records away from parents. In my specific case, that's exactly what happened. Mr. Hyde, you touched on the fact just a minute ago that Texas does not have a duty to warn, whereas this licensed professional counselor, who is also a supervisor in Beaumont area, she actually testified that she has a duty to warn, not report, warn. That goes against exactly what you just stated, Mr. Hyde, which we know, and I know now over many years of having to do research, that is a fabrication inside of court. She lied to a judge. This is something that is not being touched on nearly enough as far as the family code or the family courts. I will have to also say that when we're dusting off the rule book, Mr. Taylor, I understand that you were fist bumping, like, you know, there's a little sarcasm there. But one of the things that definitely needs to be touched on is what role mental health professionals play in family courts. And I'm going to tell you right now from personal experience, it's a huge one. When a licensed professional counselor can sit on the stand, never talking, but only to one parent, and then sit there and lie under oath, and then nothing is done once the investigation is being put forth, it's an issue. This is being done countless times, not only in CPS or Family Protective Services, but there's nothing under 261 that holds them accountable. And then when we bring it to y'all, it's out of the jurisdiction. It's something that needs to be touched on more than just 109 of the family code. And the same thing goes under 0.53 for an evaluator. I appreciate everything that y'all are doing. However, I do think that we can put forth a better effort, or even myself, if anybody would like to contact me, I would love to have a discussion about this. My phone number is 903-752-2731. There's multiple acts that's been committed inside of my family court case and others that is being overlooked because I think family court is brushed underneath the rug. We need to look at it. And I appreciate y'all's time. There will be more complaints coming. There will be more things that we can do better at the legislative level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Next person I have is Rhonda Kimball.
Good morning, everyone. Rhonda Kimball, LPC, and individual stakeholder. I don't come belonging to any association, but I want to speak to some of the things you guys talked about today. So when Patrick introduced this letter of denial, thanks for sticking with the rule book. But what I heard you start with is, this is a PhD candidate that wants the hours reduced. And so here we go with this PhD entitlement crap already. So what the new board members need to know is, if you're going to be a supervisor with a master's degree or a PhD, you need the same amount of supervision, education. And just because someone has a PhD doesn't mean they're a better counselor. And you can take a sample survey from your 320 complaints that you have and see how many supervisors are being complained against. I mean, it doesn't have to be this big, you know, throw money at this and let's figure it out. If you're a bad supervisor, you're going to be found out. The problem with the supervisors today is since the associates can have their own private practice, there's a lot of liability and exposure, and that's why people are reluctant. And I'm telling you from working in the field, not some organization or sitting on a board. As we speak to these cases with these children and family court, listen, we are bound by confidentiality. Our license is always on the line. And so I'm not sure these therapists are lying and all this. I don't know. I wasn't there to that gentleman, but we have a great burden on us. I listened to the LMFT board the other day, and you guys want to educate us, right? So you're dictating 50% of the CEs that we take. You can take classes on suicide, but guess what? Suicide is up. We cannot fix people or bad parenting, or, you know, we are in the trenches helping people, trying to work with them, get them back to wholeness. But we don't want to be involved in this, you know, let's castrate this little boy and let's do this. I mean, come on, people. We have to get in line with family court with them. There are things that are just wrong, and we don't need to be part of it. We've got our hands full. So with these 4-year rules, and I just hope you'll go over the rule book, get rid of what we don't need, make the rules that we do need current and relative to the problems of today, because every bit of mental illness is on the rise. And whether you have a PhD or you are a master's LPC, which is all that's required. And I really wish you'd re-vote again, especially with these people. You guys have a full board today. I'd love to see that PhD vote today, because it was pretty stacked when you were voting it. And that does upset me. Making this division on this LPC within the LPC community is wrong. And I hope the executive board rejects it. But we have bigger problems and bigger fish to fry than to think of, you know, to cater to this ego. And right off the bat, PhD entitlement, if you reduce it for them, you reduce it for everybody. And I'm speaking for the master's level LPCs that actually want to work with people and not continue to be dictated by academia. What I need to learn, I need to study in my specialty and be the expert. And I am the expert in what I do, not the board. So I want the new members to be informed and to take our public comments. And you will see there's not very many LPCs that show up because we're not being heard.
Ms. Kimball, I'm sorry, your time is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person we have is Sandra Martin.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Sandra.
Okay. I represent Christian Counselors of Texas. I'm governmental liaison for that organization. I'm also with the Greater Dallas South chapter of Christian Counselors of Texas. And in answer to the board chair as to whether we took CE credit for that, yes, sir. The answer is we took credit. We took 2 hours of credit.
I hope it was valuable.
It was very valuable. We figured that if the board that makes the rules by which we function cannot educate us continually, then we don't know what entity could or should. So we just joyfully took the 2 hours. As we move increasingly into interaction with mental health rules and regulations of other states, we want to say we appreciate the character of our rules and regulations as they come from our Texas legislative bodies. We look forward in this coming year to the massive effort you're going to undertake to receive public comment at various locations and probably very geographically wide-ranging locations. It's a huge effort. I know that, and probably very expensive. We are so grateful. Although I intend to be in as many in-person meetings of boards as I can be, I can't make all of them and keep a practice going. And most of our counselors don't have the passion for government. In case you haven't noticed, there's not a lot of passion about government unless you're mad at somebody. And then we get pretty passionate. Anyway, we thank you so much for your commitment to the counselors and counseling bodies of Texas. It's so important. And as I said, I just want to repeat again for reasons that will become evident in written comment. We just appreciate the character of our rules. It's very important. We have very high standards and we want to see them continue. And we appreciate the work that you all do to see that that quality and that the quality and nature of the standards that we are held to continue to be very, very high. Thank you so much for your service to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you. The next person we have is Philip Crum.
Good morning. Good morning. Let me turn this off. I am Phil Crum, and I'm co-founder of AMP. I'm going to finish Kathleen's list of questions that she started a moment ago. In light of the OAG opinion and the entire GAC protocol process, at what point in the process is the process considered child abuse? Specifically, is the authoring of a green lighting letter for gender affirming care, medication, and surgery for a minor child abuse, or is it not? Question number 6, are we aiding and abetting in the child abuse, and is a counselor potentially legally liable, and to what degree? Question 7, there's an organization called WPATH. It's currently the loudest voice in training new GAC adherents in the protocols for transitioning those dealing with gender confusion, including children. How is the board going to view certification of a process which has been largely outlawed in the state of Texas? Will that certification be recognized? Also, will training and certification hours through outfits like WPATH count towards renewal? All of that above that Kathleen and I have said, just to get to this question, number 8, if participation by a licensed mental health counselor in any part of the affirming care process, particularly towards minors, is observed or reported to me, including the drafting of affirming care approval letters, do I have a duty to report? And under what parameters do I have a duty to report? Answers to these questions really need to be determined and clearly stated in our rule books. We openly invite the other professional organizations to publicly denounce gender affirming care as the non-science-based treatment protocol that it is, and recognize the OAG's legal opinion, the definition of child abuse in Family Code 261 and SB 14, which outlaws GAC in minors under 18. We further encourage them to condemn the writing of GAC letters in compliance with the OAG's opinion of GAC as child abuse for minors, regardless of which state any further treatment may occur. It's past time to do the right thing and have this discussion. And while we're here, both Kathleen and I would really like to say Christina rocks, even though she does cheat at Monopoly. And I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Next person we have is Dr. Olivia Weddle.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to apologize in advance. You might hear my 3-year-old joyfully playing with his rocket ship in the background. I'm Dr. Olivia Weddle. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Texas. I'm a private practice owner in the DFW area, as well as a counselor educator. I am the immediate past president of Texas Mental Health Counselors Association, and I want to reiterate what Dr. Lori Hollingsworth, Dr. Smedley, and others mentioned in terms of your support of stakeholder organizations. Your time is very much appreciated, and we look forward to continuing to build relationships with you all and just promote visibility in the state. We will also promote attendance and engagement at the upcoming town hall meetings. And I'm also really happy to see the meetings in person again, but I remain appreciative of the option to attend virtually. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you all for everything.
Thank you. And the last person we have is Rashasta Brandon. I apologize if I said that wrong.
Nope, you said it correctly. Can you guys hear me? Hello. So, yes, thank you guys for allowing for public comment. My name is Roshasta Brandon, and I am an LPC associate here in Texas. I would like to speak on the discussion about supervision years of practice. I did like the idea of taking an ethics course to ensure that the supervisors are up to standards. I do believe there are many factors that contribute to a great therapist besides time spent in the field, such as having a natural born ability or calling to lead. I would be interested to see the data that shows the average amount of years in practice to become a qualified supervisor. And if possible, refining those duties of a supervisor here in the state of Texas to better align with the duties of a highly qualified supervisor with 3 years of practice in the field. That's all I had to say, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Was that
That
it?
is the end of our public comment.
Thank you, Christina. That concludes public comment. Before we adjourn, any final items from any of our board members, staff, anything that we missed that we need to take note of? Nope. Oh, Dr. Bradley, go ahead.
Our next meeting, what, June the 2nd, will it be in person or Zoom?
Well, what do y'all like doing? It's great to meet in person. I'm very protective of your time. The in-person meeting is a bigger time commitment. Instead of, 3 hours on Zoom, it's travel the night before and it's travel back and it's expense reports. But I view this as a collaborative decision. So if anybody feels strongly one way or the other, you can say it out loud right here, or you can contact me individually and just kind of let me know. It's great being in person. It really is, but it's asking more of you guys, and you're all volunteers. Yeah.
I personally, at least now that we're getting back, prefer the in-person, but I would recommend that we have the option to join by Zoom if there's a particular reason that we need to.
And we do have that option, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I not to violate HIPAA with Dr. Taylor, but he was a little touch and go yesterday based on a sick kid. And he checked to make sure that he would be able to log in via Zoom if he had to stay home and help with the kid. So that is an option.
My daughter's tum hurt.
We're all pulling for Ella. So.
The next board meeting is scheduled for June 7th, Friday, June 7th.
Friday, June 7th.
You all know.
And Chair Halbar, I don't think we're going to be discussing a lot of rules on June 7th, but that means we're doing the rules. I do feel that would be important to be in person.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with in person. I actually wanted to say thank you to Christina and Brenda. Brenda is a regulator, if you don't know.
Yes,
And I'm
she
very
is.
grateful to her,
Mhm.
but for all the efforts it took for us to physically get here, I'm grateful for that effort and energy.
Janie, for the record, the rules review is done in the rules committee, so it won't be a full board meeting.
Right, but whenever it
When
comes
we
to the
review,
board.
that's not going to be until
Okay.
close to the end of the year, for sure.
Okay. We'll let you know. I'm going to take it under advisement. I'm going to talk with Christina. And you'll want to make sure you get your expense reports done before you decide how you really feel about in-person job, because that's a challenge. Trust me.
And Christina has been very helpful in all of this. And Linda has been very helpful with the travel.
They're great, but honestly, considering we're all 9 here and we start time and we had the technology in place, it's kind of it's really a credit to Christina and Linda that this worked out, and and our IT McGregor, right?
McGregor.
Thank you, McGregor. We appreciate that. So, to be honest with y'all, I lean towards in-person meetings just because I kind of feel as though I know we do better we do quality work in person, and there's a certain meeting structure that flows better when we're all here in person. So, but again, you're volunteers, and I don't want to use up more of your time than you really committed to. So,
And like what someone said earlier, it is a vibe. It is a vibe.
It is a
It's a vibe.
yeah, and just vibe wise, we should. I want us to like each other and to respect each other professionally, so that we can disagree and still get along. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. Anything to add? All right, that's it. Thanks, everybody. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Everyone, thank you for your service to the state of Texas. We're adjourned.
Mics are still hot. Mics are still hot.
2 hours.